Welcome to The View from the East, a new unofficial Leyton Orient podcast. This is episode 6, entitled Sporting Orient. Once again, I'm joined by the older, wiser brother, Eddie B. Eddie, how are we doing?
Yeah, well. I hope everyone else is well out there. So we've got a few topics we want to go through today, Rob, haven't we? So about the last couple of games and a few other things in between. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'll run through the menu in just a moment. We've just got a couple of little bits of business just to run by you. We've seen, and thank you for it, we've seen a bit of comment on sort of audio quality coming through on the podcast. So we've spoken, I'd like to say we've spoken to Mr. Gandler just to invest in a bit of audio help. But we've done a bit of wheeling and dealing, Ed, haven't we? And we've got a few bits of audio equipment in to try and help with the listening experience of the listeners. So all being well, this is coming through a bit better at the moment.
Yeah, that's as I say, hopefully, be good to see your comments if you do think it's improved. But we're a learning podcast, so we're sort of teaching ourselves as we go along. So any feedback's appreciated.
Yeah, and before I'm sure someone's going to say, but Rob, you still sound rubbish. That is my voice. I cannot help that. This is how I speak. So I apologise if my Walthamstow accent isn't to everyone's liking, but I've got away with it for 51 years, so I'm not going to change now. Also, with the episode title, if you're wondering why it's called Sporting Orient, there were at the home game last night against Mansfield, there must have been, it felt like 200 Sporting Lisbon fans.
Yeah, No, I thought they brought something different yesterday. They was obviously very excited pre-game. We could hear them all singing, and they carried on that throughout the game.
Yeah, it seemed like 200. Probably there's about 100 there, but they sung all the way through. We do have a gist of some Portuguese, and we will talk about maybe an issue the club might need to look at in football in general later. We could have called this episode Champions League Filth, but I thought I'd better not. So Sporting Orient is what we've kept to. But yeah, we'll talk about what we picked up with our basic Portuguese a bit later in the episode. So on the menu tonight, everyone, is Lincoln away defeat, Monday's Q&A, Wellens FA charge, Mansfield draw, Richie post-match comments after Mansfield, Rotherham on Saturday, and also we'll just have a quick comment about some of our near neighbours and what their projected fortunes or misfortunes may be coming to the end of the season. So, Ed, let's get underway. Lincoln away was the early kickoff on Saturday. Obviously, Lincoln flying high. They're almost champions. What did you make of Saturday's game?
I was a bit surprised. I thought Lincoln were going to, because getting promotion a few days before that. I was hoping that they were still drunk for 3 or 4 days previously, but they were all over us within the first 10, 15 minutes. We could have been 3-0 down quite easily. And it's quite common this season. We just seem to get bullied, and we panic, and everyone's fighting for their lives. But so it was no surprise when they went 1-0 up in sort of like 15, 20 minutes. And we just thought it was going to get worse. We was talking, wasn't we? We was just worried we were going to be like 4-0 down before half time.
Yeah. It must be noted, once again, Richie wasn't on the sidelines, was he? I think they didn't put anything on the website or on the app, but Paul Terry alluded to it. He was recovering again from his, I think it's a bulged disc, isn't it, or something he's got. So Paul Terry in charge again on the sidelines. Of course, he had his Bluetooth in his ear, so Richie gave him whatever instructions were needed. There was a lot of chat prior to the kickoff about why are we playing 5 at the back, why have we got 3 central defenders again for a game like this. When you look at it, Ed, I spoke to you about it. I think really these are the best 11 players we have available in terms of who they trust, or just on paper who would be. And I think they've had to go with that. We haven't got really that many options at the moment. We've got a big squad, haven't we? But we've got 10, 11 out. So it's I think really that it was just trying. Who can we field where we might nick a draw, if you know what I mean? They certainly wasn't going for the win. That sounds wicked, but I hate saying that about our team. But it didn't feel like it. Although saying that, Ballard almost put one away within 30 seconds. But after that, as you alluded to, Lincoln really come on strong. and scored really a really good goal after about 17 minutes. So I felt really then after that we was a bit under the pump, weren't we?
Yeah, it was just a bit disheartening. I think we nearly pulled it back just before half time, actually. I think when they put the how many minutes of extra added time to the end of the first half, and they thought, oh, if we can just get a goal and, it's going to gee everyone up for the second half. And lo and behold, we score an own goal and we're 2-0 down. And It must have been so demoralising for those players, like walking in at half time.
Yeah, I felt sorry for Forrester. Again, though, it wasn't near the end of the half, wasn't it? We've switched off a bit, which not only this season, that's been something that happened last season as well, early part of the year. But I felt sorry for Forrester because when you see it, I'm sure he's caught in two minds at one point. He didn't know whether to go right or left. It's, like when all of a sudden you're not controlling your body and his body's just basically walked into the ball and it's gone through into the nets. And since he's been with us, he does put in a shift. So he's not one who's been lacking in any way in terms of effort and attitude on the pitch. Obviously, he's our captain as well. So Richie and the backroom team must obviously trust him. But I felt bad for him. But also at that point as well, I did text you just as we got into half time. We've got to be careful. We're not going to be sort of 3 or 4 or 5 because the crowd were behind them. They was really sort of playing well. As I said, possession-wise, as I mentioned on last week's podcast, normally they run at about 30% possession. At that point, they were dominating possession. And I was really worried that we've almost got an extra point in terms of our goal difference. And I thought that could get wiped out really easily if we're not careful here. So, it wasn't a great watch as an Orient fan, but I was glad let's keep it at 2-0 at the very least.
Yeah, it's funny, the amount of times we've been on Sky this season. I don't think I've watched one decent game. It's either been 0-0 draws or we've lost. So I'm just hoping, that we better turn that around soon. But I think once Lincoln walked in at half-time 2-0 up, I think they eased off a little bit. They had that cushion. They're just aiming for the title now, aren't they? So it's in their own hands. And I think you could see that a little bit. And we seem to attack more in the second half. Obviously, I thought it was a really good goal to the play. Ballard pulling it back to 2-1. And we just thought, can we go for it? Can we get it? And I think, we were unlucky. We had a few chances at the end, but just didn't have that luck in the last 5 minutes. And I think that they're top of the league for a reason, and perhaps 2-1 isn't that bad when you think about it overall, considering what sort of team has to put out against them.
Yeah, Ballard's goal was a great goal, wasn't it? And he's done it again with his head. You keep saying he's great in the air. What is he, 5'7", if he's lucky?
Yeah.
And Elmiz created it 90 minutes for Elmiz, which really, how many games have you been back? 5 or 6? So to get that...
Yeah, it must be now.
Richie will probably say something about minutes and he shouldn't be playing too often. But someone's made a decision to keep him on the pitch for that whole game, which is good to see. I didn't think he'd be doing that this early. Perkins had a chance, didn't he, where he sort of, I won't say fluffed it, but he didn't get any sort of real power behind his header from about 6 yards out. And also, Forrester had an effort right near the end.
That's right.
To be fair, their goalkeeper was really good. And I think he's got the most clean sheets in the league so far this year. So you can tell sort of he must be a good keeper. Fair play to him. I hope they do win the title. They should be able to wrap it up on Saturday, I think. So good luck to them. The crowd were really up for it. Ed, one thing we've picked up on, air raid siren, every corner and long throw and free kick into the box. How'd they get away with that?
I love it. Yeah, I don't know. They obviously do. They're obviously allowed to do it. But perhaps it's where, when you really are going for it and you're up there, you can get away with what you want. But I liked it. Yeah. So they're paying someone to press that button.
You can imagine when they get up into the Championship and they're playing someone who's been established there for years, like a Middlesbrough. So what the hell is that? Who's cranking the air raid siren this week? Maybe they do it, like we do the half-time penalty, hit the crossbar. Maybe you have to put in so you get used to that air raid siren every game. I'd love something like that.
I mentioned it to Devlin. There's probably some money to be made, right?
Yeah, I should have put it in the old questions for the Q&A, but I forgot all about it. Right, so that's I'll take 2-1. I would have loved the point, but at least we got away, I think, without being pumped for about 4 or 5, which could quite have easily have happened based on that first half. I got the order slightly wrong. Let's move on to Wellens' FA charge. Now, this came out on Monday, the 13th. So I was there at the Huddersfield game, and I did see that he did make a beeline for the ref straight away. Obviously, this is after the, should we say, I want to say controversy, but how should you say, confusion over the Tom James and the drop ball. No one's picked up on the fact that we didn't bloody clear the ball. Happy could have shifted that into row Z, or maybe done one of his lovely crossfield passes that normally go into road. If he'd done that, it would have been fine. He forgot about his normal programming. So this is from the. I'm looking at the Leyton Orient app at the moment. So this is what it alleged. Then we'll talk about what maybe led to it and what really we should think about it. So it's alleged that the head coach acted in an improper manner by entering the field of play to confront and or use abusive and or insulting words towards a match official after the final whistle, leading to his dismissal. It's further alleged that he used abusive and or insulting words towards a match official immediately after being sent off. It's also alleged the manager acted in an improper manner and or used abusive and or insulting words towards a match official in or around the changing room after the match. Ed, what do we make of that?
Just a bit upset, wasn't he? He's just viewing his look, we know he's hot tempered. You were there for that game, Rob, weren't you? And we had been on a undefeated streak, and to let a goal in the what was it, 116th minute, especially after the decision that was made for the drop ball. I imagine he was quite angry anyway throughout the game, and then that's just blown his top. He's got it in him. He's like the who's the guy in Spain who manages Atletico Madrid?
Simeone.
Yeah, it's the English Simeone.
Yeah, I've never heard him called Richie Simeone yet, but you're right. I mean, what he is, people will either agree or disagree with it. He is passionate about his football, isn't he? And he is a football fan. We know that he's a season ticket holder at Man United. You know, I suppose he is a punter sometimes as well as a football manager. Can you excuse me or not? Would I feel worse if we just had someone who just decided to sit in the dugout and not do anything or not express anything? My only worry is, I'll give it a say we was on a night out or when you're with friends, and he's almost had 3 bites of the apple with this. Sort of, say I was in a confrontation with someone, you take me on, all right, Rob, come away. Then if I went back for another bite of that apple for the second, all right, Rob, leave it. If I went back for the third time, you'd be thinking, sod you. You know, I
just leave you. I just leave you.
Yeah. So who's telling him, look, come away now, Richie, come away from that? Because we've done the stadium tour, haven't we? And the referee's little changing room is a little room cupboard, really.
It's right next door, isn't it? Yeah,
it's just as you get out of the dugouts, down the steps, and just down the tunnel. So, you know, that must have been, I would imagine, quite a congested area and stuff like that. Surely there's someone there who either blocks it off or just say, Richie, that's enough. You know, and I know he's the manager, but at some point there must be someone who, like, look, just come away, you know. But I know the club will deal with it. I think it didn't have a day or 48 hours to give his view on what happened. I'm sure that will come out in the wash in the next couple of weeks, what the charge may be, probably a touchline ban, I guess. But I love his passion, but at some point, that's enough, mate, just come away.
Yeah, but I think the thing as well, that we need him for the next 3 games now. We need a manager on the touchline. And, you know, if he does get suspended or for a certain number of games on top of what he's already had to serve, you know, that's it's something they need to sort out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come to it, but about the Rotherham game, that win the next one, then make sure he does go away for a couple of weeks and rest up, because he did allude to sort of some health issues, didn't he, and his blood pressure, which we'll talk about. But yeah, get the points we need and then have a rest, mate. But also, I will add to that because I've met him on a few occasions. Richie generally is one of the nicest people I've ever met. So I suppose it is that yin and yang, isn't it? In terms of that passion for football and his job does come out in a different way, sort of maybe to what some others would want or what others would handle at that time. But generally, he's one of the nicest people you could meet. Right, Ed, let's go on to Monday's Q&A. This was run live on YouTube, I think from, what was it, about 7 o'clock on
Yeah,
Monday.
that's right.
It is still available on, obviously, YouTube now. I think also you can access it through the club website and app. Questions were asked to be submitted prior to the event itself. I thought I was really late to the party. I sent a load of questions over on Friday. But yeah, what did you make of the Q&A? Did you hear anything you didn't know or same old questions?
First of all, it's good that they do that, or do this, sorry. There's not many clubs, if any, that I know that do this perhaps 3 or 4 times a year. And it is a way of the fans putting their question towards the management there, and just to see if they can get some information out of them. But no, I thought the questions were a little bit more grown up this time. I thought I've listened to these a few times, and I don't want to hear questions about crisps and food really. I want to hear about the business side and the money and the management and what their expectations are for the next couple of years. So I thought this was actually an improvement on the ones I'd listened to before.
Yeah, I was a bit worried because, as I said, I sent my questions over late on Friday, so I sent 5 questions. Within the first half hour, they'd asked 4 of my questions. So I thought, has no one else bothered? And it's just me, or was the quality of questions compared to mine really poor? And it was all about sausage rolls and nachos, and I decided not to ask them this time. There was a couple of interesting bits for me. So when they was talking about the stadium in particular, I think when they'd done their last Q&A, they said for the stadium they hope to get more information out, more sort of concrete information by about this time. So about April or May. Now they're saying that's not going to be until the next quarter, which I guess is what, September, October, November, in terms of them when they do like one of these next Q&As. So that's 6 months later than what potentially they said. And then it makes you think, well, because we was given a bit of information on where the site might be, and they was quite confident on that at the time.
That's right.
Without saying sort of what we was told, I wouldn't really want it being anywhere else because that'd be quite handy for me. But so that was interesting, and I suppose on the training ground as well, it sounds like they're going to try and do their best with the current training ground without actually telling us where the new one might be.
Yeah, we sort of alluded to this last week. That was one of my questions. I was really, if there was any more information on the training ground, where as we sort of said, if we want to be championship ready, we need a championship training facility. I think they said there's 1 or 2 sites that they are getting closer on, but similar to what we heard sort of 6 months ago, a year ago. It seems like they're improving the state of the pitches in the training ground that they're currently using. They may even be doing it on a second pitch as well there. But yeah, again, we may find out some more information similar to the stadium, sort of like the back end of this season. It definitely won't be happening in the summer. That was definitely alluded to. So we'd probably be talking about this season off the next, I would imagine.
They do have to improve it because then I'm sure it will help with the injuries, attracting players maybe, and just improving the facilities as well for the academy players and even attracting those youngsters to stay with us potentially.
Yeah, well, that's right. You do hear a lot of stories, don't you? The football clubs sign players, and the last they've signed Happy Days, they agree and the last place they take them is the training ground.
Yeah.
Because they know it's the weak point of the sell. So yeah, look, I imagine that they're going to build a new stadium, aren't they? So they have to get the training facilities up to speed, and that's the only way you're going to get, I would imagine, a better type quality player to join us.
Yeah, I thought everyone was really good on it. Someone asked us about Gandler and is he still committed to it? And it was interesting. Nigel mentioned something that he's, I suppose, putting together like monies to one side because he's
Yeah,
got that history with the Italian in terms of what he's seen. Just in case something was to happen, then he's got some sort of fund to help
I
out if
think
needed.
he did sort of mention that. That was a good point, Rob. Yeah, sort of like it's like his own magic pot of money, just in case anything did go tits up, that we don't all get caught out and end up where we were sort of like over 10 years ago. Now, I think one of the interesting things that he said, David Gandler's will get the stadium will be fully funded by external partners. He said most of those are probably going to be from North America, privately funded. And, so there'll be no debt towards the club officially. So I think as soon as we get the information, then it'll start moving quicker than you probably anticipate. They're probably a lot forward than we know anyway. There'll be a big story that comes out or a big messages everywhere. Or look, what sort of stadium they're gonna build. And I think they said they've already had over 2,500 people filling out the stadium survey as well. So I suppose it's just gathering as much information as they can.
Ed, you're a lot better with money than me, and I'm putting you on the spot with this question then. How do those investors make their money back?
Well, I suppose they're going to give us the money, aren't they, to build the stadium, and they own the ground. That's the only thing. If you, at the ground, we've got a lovely ground, 30,000 happy days, but if those investors think to themselves in 10 years' time, I don't want it to be a football ground anymore because they own the land, they might sort of decide to knock it down, build houses, and then you're going to have to go and find another ground.
So it wouldn't. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. So for instance, for every £100 coming into the stadium, would the investors maybe be taking £10 out of that?
Yeah, I imagine they could. Yeah, you would do if I'm giving you money. I want it back over a certain period. I think that's the way it works.
Yeah,
I want to get some money back, don't I?
Yeah,
but they own the land. Say they bought the land. Let's say, for argument's sake, for £1 million. I know we know it's going to be a lot more than that, but in 10 years' time, that land might be worth £10 million.
Yeah,
for residential and stuff. We've sort of seen these things happen before, but let's not think about that.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. In the sense, I won't think about it too much because we haven't even got a sort of a spade in the ground so far, digging up the land, have we? But I suppose you're right. Their investment might actually be in, because Mark Devlin mentioned there might be residential properties, didn't he, on the land? So they might actually be invested in that side of it in terms of owning that plot of land rather than the stadium itself. So yeah. As I said, you're a lot cleverer with money than me. So thanks for that.
But no, overall, I thought it was really good. I found out a lot of stuff that I didn't know. And there was a couple of things they brought up, didn't they? One that interests you, Rob, was potentially before the season kicks off next year, they might do like a pre-season kit launch party for Leyton Orient, and they're sort of looking down the Backhorse Road, a beer mile, to do something like that.
That did interest me because once I don't think we've ever had anything like that. Steve Tate seemed really interested about it, didn't he, in terms of the Blackhorse Beer Mile. Blackhorse Road is basically our old manor, isn't it? We grew up just off Blackhorse Road, so that'd be like going home for me. But also, can I call him Taters? Steve Tate? Everyone's got nicknames. Let's call him Taters. But he seemed, his eyes lit up when he said that. It just sounds like, I don't want to swear, but it just sounds like a good pre-season piss-up to get everyone together. And as you said, you could do a bit of a kit launch, couldn't you? Maybe bring out a new sign-in for a Q&A. It sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, I imagine they'll probably have a couple of players there parading the kit, or that there might be like a pop-up shop where you can buy stuff. And then, it'd be quite good because it's away from Leyton, and see sort of how many people it can sort of attract before the season kicks off. Usually everyone's in a good spirit before the season starts. So I think it's a win-win for them. They might be able to attract some more people that are not connected currently to the club.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Ed, let's move on to, we were there last night, Mansfield at home. I wish I could say what an outstanding game. I've never seen anything like it. I'll just say, what a bloody boring game. I've seen plenty like that.
Yeah, it was such a shame because 3 points probably would have guaranteed us safety, but they probably needed that point actually looking at the tables just to guarantee themselves. It looked as if it got to the point of what I would say before, beginning of the second half, looked like both teams were happy with a point. They nullified us, we nullified them. And there was it was funny, like the last 5 minutes, the Mansfield players were just like passing the ball to one another. We wasn't attacking them. It was just like, let's just take a point, guys.
In my eyes, that was a rough watch. I mean, I've been down there. There was last season when we played Wigan at home. It was 0-0 and I almost fell asleep. Literally, I almost fell asleep. But it's frustrating, isn't it? I know there's this phrase going around at the moment, respect the point. And I get all that. But then, like you said, I'm travelling in from Kent. I'm paying, and there'll be people travelling far further than me and paying to get there. I want to see a bit more from sort of 90 minutes of football. Mansfield certainly seemed more likely to put the ball in the back of the net. They seemed, when they wanted to, a bit more lively, a bit more with it. People think I'm digging him out. I wasn't over enthralled when I saw Perkins starting. But then again, is that all we've got available because of injuries?
No, I think I think you're at the stage of the season now. Do you really want to put someone who's never played? I'm sure there's a couple of players in the under-21 team or the youth team that could have sat on the bench, but do you really want to test them out with 3 or 4 games to go when we need the points? So I hate using this expression as well, bare bones. He can only pick what he's got in front of him, the players he sort of trusts. So I thought it was a shame as well, because it was a bit of a showcase, because they was doing like kids for £1 and adults for £10. So you're bringing in a few new people there that perhaps don't get a chance to go on a normal Saturday afternoon. Just to try and get them ready for next year. They're interested in buying a season ticket. But after that performance yesterday, I don't imagine they're going to get a lot of positive feedback from the people who perhaps that was their first ever time at Leyton Orient.
Yeah, weren't great. I mean, I suppose one of the things first half with El Miz went off after about half hour, didn't he? Bloody hell, I hope that's not his hamstring again. But then Backinson come on, and I think now Azim's playing a lot better, isn't he? Consistently, I think. I'm not saying he's sort of a 10 out of 10 every week, but he's a bit more trustworthy and reliable. And putting Backinson in with him, if it meant we had to do that for the next 3 games, I'd probably trust that's going to work in some respects. Like El Miz, you don't have to rush him back potentially if sort of get a win in the next.
Well, that's the thing. I think Saturday is, it's a lot dependent on the result. If we win, then you're going to see a lot of these players on the fringes probably being rested. If we don't win, or the result goes against us, then you've got another problem. Then you've only got sort of there was even talk of potentially Connolly being on the bench for Saturday's game. So
we'll come to the Rotherham game. I've got a fault on that because I don't want Connolly rushed back. The second half was poor, to be honest. And even by the end of the first half, I forgot to mention, we was already passing back side to side and going back to the goalkeeper. And you think, bloody, I have paid money to come here, and you're making me suffer. But the second half, then they went almost near the end. We had sort of a back 5 with a 4 protecting them with Ballard up front. Bearing in mind, they brought Josh Koroma on. And even you said at the time, push 2 forward. Even if you do it for 5 minutes, give them something to think about.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised he didn't go up to partner him. Just for the last sort of 10, 15.
There didn't seem a lot of energy there.
Not at all. I think perhaps both sets of players and managers were a point suited both of them at this sort of time of the season.
By the end of it, what came to my mind was that 1982 World Cup. Let's take you back, young listeners. Look it up in the history books if you need to. That Austria-West Germany game when didn't they do a 1-1 draw or 0-0 and it knocked Algeria out of the World Cup? It was a bit like that. So Mansfield have got their point. I think they're safe now. Richie must just look. Let's just stick to what we've got and sort of let's see this out. But that was, in some ways, it's sort of. I know we're trying to get safe. But maybe Richie won't understand this as a manager, but as a Leyton Orient fan, home, it would be nice to at least push some effort up. We didn't have a shot on target, Ed. BBC will tell you we had 1 shot on target. Who saw that? I didn't see that. We didn't work the goalkeeper at all game.
No, he just... it was even one of those games I don't think anyone around me got out their seats once. Usually if you're going forward, you're going to have an attack, or the crowd are geared up for it. They're standing on their feet. There was nothing yesterday. We may look back at this, and it's a good point, but
it makes you wonder if that's why they've done half price booze, just to like numb the pain of it. They knew what was coming.
I wouldn't put it past them. But we talked about this. I know we had those 4 wins and the spin, which is great. But yeah, the last 5 games, we've got 3 points out of a possible 15, and it's just
it's not great. And when you look, Richie said in his post match, we've lost 2 in 9 or whatever. That sounds great, but as you alluded to there, we've got 3 in 5, so 3 from 15 points available, which isn't great. We've only scored 2 goals in that. One of them was an own goal.
Yeah.
We've not really been too potent in front of just creating chances, which could be Ballard is just not on his form at the moment, or he's due to hit a clutch of goals as he does in the next few games. So it could be.
I do feel sorry for him though, because he's playing on his own, and you can see it. You see it with other players as well. If they're not getting the ball put in front of them or the positions they want to get in, they start drawing back. There's a couple of occasions yesterday where he's picking the ball up sort of like just over the halfway line because he's not getting the service. He just wants the ball. And when he does get the ball, he's by far the best player on the pitch.
Yeah.
But you can see it sometimes. They're drifting further and further back, trying to get a touch of the ball.
We've probably spoken about that game more than what it needed to, actually. I don't think it deserved 4 or 5 minutes on it. Just before we go on to Richie's post-match, we mentioned before there's a load of, I'm going to call them Sporting Lisbon fans. Apparently you're not allowed to call them Sporting Lisbon anymore. It's Sporting,
what do I call them now?
Sporting Club Portugal.
Jeez.
Which, God knows when that came out about. Maybe I'm so old I don't bother changing. But I'm sure if you look on the European trophies that have been won in the past, it still says Sporting Lisbon on there. So probably, when I was growing up, probably one of the biggest names in European football. So I'll keep calling them that. But there must have been about 50 of their fans ready for the Arsenal match tonight. So good on them for coming down. They've got in for £10. Whoever organised that, well done.
Yeah.
But with our pidgin Portuguese, we picked up on possibly they are singing a version of the East London is Wonderful song, which was mentioned in the Q&A. No one's allowed to sing it, or no one likes it being heard or sung, which I probably agree with. It's 40 years past its sell-by date. But what they got to do then to police it if it's sung in a different language and no one can pick up on it?
Yeah, I don't think they realised that yesterday, and it was probably sung for the whole of the second half. But I don't know, perhaps we need a Portuguese DEI person walking up and down the stands.
Yeah, and I certainly picked up, when we was leaving, and I know you picked up on this as well, I certainly picked up on the Portuguese for couldn't score in a brothel. There's all sorts of language like that where... that part made me chuckle, to be fair, because it was an awful game and I needed something to make me laugh. But there is stuff like that. If you go police stuff with like regular fans and what you think is offending people, then potentially what was being sung is go offend someone sort of through the night, isn't it? Right. Let's get on to Richie's post-match comments. Now, I'm not talking about the one that he does for the club, which is, what would you call it? He probably had to do a
sanitized version.
Yeah, so probably a corporate PC version, which means they can put it on the website, this, that and the other. The best one you can listen to is good old Dave Victor's, which is now pretty much always on the BBC Sounds or BBC London website. And last night's was quite interesting because basically when Richie's not in a good mood, basically sometimes it feels like he's taken it out on poor old Dave.
It did feel like that yesterday. We listened to it, didn't we, when we got home yesterday? Yeah, he obviously takes the brunt of it. I presume Dave speaks to him before anyone else. Is probably a part of the BBC contract or EFL contract, and he wasn't a happy bunny, especially with the people sitting behind him.
Yeah, we won't comment on it too much, but from what I've read on the forums and on the X, it's been alleged that someone maybe said something unkind about Charlie, who had been subbed off early during the game, hadn't he, in the second half. Richie potentially has not liked that and maybe has either reacted to it or shown at least his anger at it in some way, whether that be body language, whatever it may be. It's pretty much all I'll probably say on that part of it. Obviously, we're in the East Stand, we can't hear or really see that. But you can tell from his post-match, he's not a happy bunny. Having to go really a collective fan group of all of us, well, the atmosphere is not great, is it? So we're not going to perform. Sometimes you've got to show something on the pitch to actually get me off my feet and shout a bit, especially a midweek game on a Tuesday when everyone's a bit tired, everyone's travelled in after potentially work, whatever it may be. So, yeah, I love Richie to bits, but sometimes there's that petulance and it doesn't come across too well.
Yeah, we said he's hot-headed, isn't he? But, you have to look at it from his, if it was criticism towards his son, I know as well, then there's only so much he can take, I imagine, as anyone standing there. But the thing is, if it's the same person doing it or the same couple of or group of people doing it week in, week out, then they should be able to pinpoint who it is, where they sit, and speak to them appropriately.
Yeah, that does need policing. It's especially because in those seats, they're probably not the cheapest seats in the ground. So they should be easy to pinpoint. It reminds me of a couple of seasons ago when we started the season poorly. Someone threw his season ticket at him. And, you don't need that, do you? We've all got our rights to an opinion, this and that, but you don't abuse people. That's not right. Yeah, I do feel for poor old Dave because he does take the brunt of it when sort of Richie's not in a great mood. He alluded, Ed, to during the post-match that he didn't have many options on the bench. Now, when I've looked at it, when you compare the bench from Lincoln to Mansfield, so you mentioned this to me as well, when you look at number of games, this is started, right? So the bench at Lincoln, number of games started for the subs would be 54. Mansfield, the subs have started 109 games. So at some point during the season, he's thought they was good enough to be in the starting 11 and give him something. I can't really see, right, maybe it's not the most flair bench you ever go see, but there must be people there that during the season he's thought, they'll do a job for me.
Yeah, it just, he does tend to, I've noticed a few of his interviews, he's always telling you about the opposition's strength of their bench, but as you've just sort of discussing, that there's a decent number of appearances now. In yesterday's on our bench, we've got some of these players who have played in the Championship as well. These are experienced players, but look, we've got 3 more games. It'd be interesting this summer of what he's going to, if he does have a bit more say in what players we get, what players get released, how he really feels about some of these players.
I think they also said, didn't they, because we're not involved in the playoffs, we can probably start our business straight away, can't we, after the season? Whether that be releasing or trying to bring players in where they think they're needed. But yeah, I just know that post-match hasn't gone down too well with a certain element of the fan base, and the fan base, of course, is allowed their opinion. We've all got different opinions on what we see or hear. But yeah, I sense his frustration. I know he's in pain as well. When you're irritable like that, you are going to take it out on people. I've done it in the past. I will mention, if he's worried about his blood pressure, I have a blood pressure problem. Get on the right medication, make sure you're being looked after. What he needs, what everyone needs. I think we need to get what points we need to secure staying up, and then he is just sent away for the rest of the season, and Paul Terry and the rest of the staff look after the team. If we can get to that point after Saturday's game where, right, Richie, you go and rest, we don't want to see you. That's what I would be saying to him.
Yeah, it's something possibly that they could look at. They've got a big backroom team now, haven't they?
Enormous, mate. It's enormous, their backroom team.
That can cover, and if we are mathematically safe after Saturday's game, it makes sense. Go and rest, get yourself better, ready for pre-season in a couple of months' time.
Right, let's move on to Rotherham. We've got their home on Saturday. Ed, I already know you're not going to be there, are you?
No, unfortunately, scouting again. I'm in Bristol this weekend for two evening 3 days. So yeah, unfortunately I won't be there, but I'll be listening in where I can. So I'm hoping with me not going might be a lucky omen and they get those 3 points that we need.
Possibly. Once again, are you allowed to tell us who you've been asked to scout or who you're looking at?
No, not yet, Rob. When it all becomes official, I'll be able to let you know.
Brilliant. Full of useful information as ever. At Rotherham at home, we've already lost to them once this season, which when you look at and Rotherham have been relegated, by the way, last night. So they're already down. Right. Rotherham with that select band, if you look at the teams who are potentially going down at the moment, Rotherham, Port Vale, Northampton, they've all beaten us this season, which isn't a good sign, is it? As I said, we lost to their gaff 1-0. Wasn't a great game. I only played them once at home under Richie Wellens, which we won 1-0. It doesn't look like there's going to be a great deal of goals, but 3 points would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think we're Rotherham, that team. Do you remember we was having a bit of a bad run last season? That was a Tuesday evening game. It might have been like a happy header. Again, a rubbish game, but we won in the last 5 minutes, and that sort of started the momentum a little bit, and the season sort of kicked on from there. It's going to be. They're already down, aren't they? The reality is he's probably going to stick out some young players, youth players looking for next season possibly. So they've got nothing to lose. So the mentality of the team might be slightly different to the way they played yesterday. And they got relegated. We don't like to see. Well, it's such a topsy-turvy few years for them. Obviously dropping down into. It's probably the first time they've been in League Two since. We both came up sort of 12 years ago or whatever it was, we got promoted.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a few things, isn't there? It's one of those, they're already ready. So our players go, I think, right, I've got to do something to maybe attract a new club, play well against Orient, play you a midfield player or a right back who we potentially need for next season. So it's sort of play well today. Maybe Orient will come in for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
It springs someone's interest. Is it Lee Clark's gone in there?
Yeah. He sort of got parachuted in, didn't he? Sort of like about half a dozen games ago. But yeah, I think the writing was on the wall before he even turned up.
Yeah. So it's whether, obviously he's going to try and do his best to still be in position come August. Whether the players are going to play for him and sort of he'll be looking at who he wants to keep, maybe try a new player. A bit like when Richie come in. I know we obviously weren't being relegated at that point. Sort of people trying to attract Lee Clark's attention for next season potentially. Could either go, maybe they'll try for, I don't know, half hour and then lose interest. That might be a good thing for us. I think what we do need, it would be nice just to get an early goal and then just maybe take a little bit of pressure off, maybe then nick the second. But yeah, what I don't want is it, because you can feel it in the ground, can't you? If it gets to 85 minutes and sort of it's still 0-0 or something like that, and people are looking at the league table thinking, bloody hell, we need 3 here, just to make sure that atmosphere, then that does run through to the players. Which we talked about Richie sort of moaning about the atmosphere in the ground on Tuesday night, but that was because there was nothing to get you going. On Saturday, if it's potentially not going well, or people, you got that nervous feeling that does come out in the crowd, that does translate onto the players sometimes. So I just hope we take them apart. But
I think we sort of mentioned before what we don't want to do, or I don't want to do, is go into that last game against Burton at home needing a result, because we've been there before, and that's going to be even more 10 times worse than what Saturday's going to be like. So let's just hope we can get the 3 points, and then we can put the flip-flops on for the last couple of games.
It's worth mentioning while we're recording, we are recording this on Wednesday. It's just gone past 10 o'clock. So tonight, Wimbledon have been at home against Stockport. Wimbledon, as I said last week, are in free fall, really. They started tonight 20th on 50 points. They've ended tonight 20th on 50 points. So they have lost 2-0 at home to Stockport. So they are, I guess, in that horrible position of being just above that relegation zone. There's now four teams: Peterborough, Leyton Orient, Burton and Blackpool on 51 points. Exeter are still chasing on 47.
So it's getting really close, isn't it, at the moment? So Blackpool have picked up a few results, haven't they, over the last 3 or 4 weeks? And obviously Burton's last result was a win. So look, if you were a betting man, you would think that we should have it sewn up Saturday evening. But I think you're right. Perhaps we need to go full gun, all guns are blazing in the first sort of 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
and try and get an early goal.
as well, possibly Conley on the bench. If we're 2-0 up, with half hour to go, I don't want to see Conley on the bench, on the pitch at all. I'd rather just rest him. I don't, or we don't want it. I don't know, Ballard going down early and then Conley has to come on. You feel like you can do 70. I don't want to see anything like that. I'd rather the team who start the game put the club in a position where they don't have to risk putting Conley on the pitch. I just don't. It'd just be our luck. I don't want to risk anyone. I'm really thinking ahead to next year. I don't want to lose anyone to a long-term injury before we even start the new season.
No, because I think, as we said, that there's a bedrock there of a good team if they're all fully fit.
Yeah.
And a spine, well, apart from the goalkeeper, there's a spine to the team now. And we just want to be at full strength going into next season. With all these players fully fit, just see what they can do next year and just write the season off and try again.
Okay, it's worth mentioning just for Exeter, because they are the team who potentially are in obviously the worst position in terms of being relegated. They're at home on Saturday to Stockport. Now, Stockport have already had a great result tonight, and they're still in that playoff zone. They probably want to secure that. I would put a little bit of money on Stockport winning that. Even the draw for Exeter is not great, but really the tonic we need is 3 points for the O's. We sort our own business out, then don't have to worry about anyone else.
And then Richie can go on holiday.
Yeah, then he can go and do whatever he wants, rest up, see you at the Black Horse Road beer mile come pre-season party. So that would be nice. Ed, let's wrap up. People might not like this. They might like it. I just want to run by a few of our near neighbours. So let's talk quickly, because we'll have friends who are fans of them. We'll have enemies who are fans of them. Let's quickly talk about Arsenal, West Ham and Spurs and predict what we might think is going to happen for these clubs before the season ends. Let's talk about Arsenal, Ed. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, people thought they was going to win 4 trophies. Are they going to win any trophies this season?
I'm just actually looking at the score. It was 0-0 today, so they're through to the semi-finals.
They are.
Of the Champions League. That means they've got more games coming up. I don't want them to win. Probably like most people don't want them to win. Just was it 4 years now potentially if they blow it this time?
Pretty much. Yeah, they've always been in contention, haven't they, for the last 3-4 years? So yes. I mean, they should have wrapped it up by now, really, because Man City it's not been a great Premiership, to be honest. I'm not a fan of the Premiership. I don't support any Premiership teams, but it's not been a great watch in terms of like excitement. All the real action's down at the bottom of the league, which we'll get to in a moment. Big game on Sunday. If Man City beat Arsenal, because that's potentially, then they've got a game in hand as well, haven't they? Then they can. Man City win, they move on to win the title.
Yeah, I think it's even goal difference is pretty much identical as well now. So it just depends how the result goes. Whatever happens Sunday, whoever wins, you would expect them to be the favourites to wrap them up. Or Man City just seem to be on a juggernaut at the moment, don't they? And just getting the results that are needed.
You've got to look at it as well. Would Pep win the Premiership if he was Arsenal manager with that squad? Probably would, wouldn't he?
I think he would. He's got that extra something, isn't he? There's only a few managers out there who've got it, and he's definitely got that special. Just when you come to these crunch games, I think he's got the experience. He's been there and he's done it on numerous occasions.
Okay, let's look further down to the bottom of the table. Obviously, 2 very near neighbours for us. West Ham, a big result on Friday night against Wolves to move out of the relegation zone. Spurs were atrocious against Sunderland. From what I saw of that game, who is going down? Who would we rather going down? Sure, and who would the Premiership not want to go down?
Well, obviously the Premiership wouldn't want Spurs to go down, would they? Because they're sort of like one of the big 6, if it is still 6 now, just because eyeballs, TV money, that's more so. They're both really big clubs, but I just think the Premiership would probably prefer West Ham to go down than Spurs. But if you look at Spurs' form, Spurs remind me a bit of Northampton. It doesn't matter what you throw at it, you just can't get a result. And I'm just amazed the amount of money they've spent and all the facilities they've got. And it just perhaps Dyche would have been good, sort of like 2 or 3 months ago, just to grab them by the balls and get it sorted. But it looks as if it's gone too far now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and What I don't understand, bearing in mind probably the length of a Premiership manager's tenure, probably the last 5 years, it's probably, what, a year? Just over a year? Why have they given him a 5-year contract? I don't understand.
I,
That's how clubs are wasting money. If they sack him within 18 months, how much they got to pay him off? $1 million.
yeah, they're obviously just desperate, weren't they? And
Yeah.
they probably thought whoever's making those decisions there. Yeah, especially when you're talking about money being chucked out of the game and clubs losing money left, right, and centre, and yeah, you give them a 5-year contract. And I don't think there's a relegation clause in his contract either, which is ridiculous.
I suppose our late brother Steve was a Spurs fan, wasn't he?
Mm.
Despite all the banter we might have had with him growing up and having a pint with him, this, that, and the other, he loved Spurs. But he'd be pulling his hair out seeing this. As much as it would be great to see a huge team like that in terms of stadium and base, if they went down, would they come straight back up? People would say yes. I'd like to
they shouldn't they?
Maybe they'd make the playoffs. I don't know.
I don't. I don't know how you're going to fill that stadium, because obviously there's 46 games, isn't there? How are you going to fill that stadium? Oh, it is on a Tuesday. You will have a lot of Tuesday night games.
Yeah, I wonder what their I wonder what their season ticket sales have been like so far for next year.
You wouldn't buy one, would you? You know the way they're going to get around of it. So just say for argument's sake, your season ticket's £1,000. We know they're a lot more, and you've got how many home games would you have? 19.
23.
You might have
23 is championship, isn't it?
Yeah, no, yeah, but this is what they do. They say your season ticket cost £1,000 last year for 19 Premiership games, and you would expect the ticket prices to go down next year, wouldn't you? If you won the Championship, they say no, hang on a minute, you've got 23 games this year, so we're going to keep the prices the same. That's what they do.
Yeah, well, I suppose with now West Ham, I must say, I'm caught between two swords. I shouldn't use the word hate, but I'm not a great fan of West Ham, which I'm sure a lot of Orient fans are. You know, locality, how near they are to us, especially in that Olympic Stadium with all the rubbish that come about with that. But I've just got a feeling they're going to pull out of it. And I don't think there's a chance that Notts Forest get pulled into that either. But I could toss a coin for either one, Tottenham or West Ham going down. So, we'll see with that. But yeah, I don't know who to put my mortgage on. But it'll be fun to see either of them in the Championship anyway.
Well, one of them's going to go down, aren't they? So
yeah, I've realised that, Ed, we've potentially gone a lot longer than our half-hour session that we said we would. So thank you, listeners, for coming with us this far. Let's just hope, everyone, that we get the result we need on Saturday. I will be in the new fan zone before the game, seeing what that's like, and then straight in for the 3:00 kickoff. Let's all just pray and hope for 3 points. Then we can all rest easy, I think, until August. So safe journey to the game on Saturday. Safe journey on your scouting mission, Ed, on Saturday. And up the O's.
Come on, you O's.